All right, joining me now on Inside TBT from the Ringer, Tate Frazier. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, man, happy to be here. Always happy to talk about TBT. I have the Grantland TBT jersey sitting over there back when Mike Bibby played in TBT back in the day. He was our coach. They did not let me play. They let all the NBA guys play. I was pretty upset about it, but it was probably for the best in the end, even though they ended up losing, so maybe not. But shout out to TBT. Always good to see you and talk about it. And we get to talk about a lot more things outside of TBT too, so I'm excited, man.
Absolutely. I love that. And, going forward, if the Ringer ever decides to put a team in TBT, I'll make sure there's a clause that says Tate must be a rostered player.
Yeah, I'm 30 now, so I'm like I'm getting close, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I can play to like 36. That's about you got 6 years to get me, but after that, I'll be front office personnel, you know what I mean? Minister of conduct, whatever I have to do, I'll do it. So I'm in. Sign me up.
I love it. We will definitely make that happen. Before we jump into TBT 2023, though, we got to
Right.
talk a little TBT 2022. And for your sake, we'll keep it with, the overtime elite team that played last year, which had the Thompson Twins, who now, thanks to everything that they did and learned in TBT, were back-to-back top 5 draft picks. I want to ask you this, though, to start it off. If your Hornets would have taken Amen Thompson at 2, would you have been able to talk yourself into that being a good pick, and why?
Yeah, I like both the Thompson twins. I think it's a great story. I loved seeing them. I thought they had great interviews. I did not really put two and two together. I remember now that you mentioned it that they played in the TBT last year. That was probably better competition than the overtime elite that they played in. So it was probably good for them. Kind of got them ready for what they're going to see. Yeah, I had talked myself into the fact that Brandon Miller was the 5th guy in this draft, just based on some of the reports that I was getting. And, he had mono, so it's not really his fault, but he was a little bit out of shape. So, Amen Thompson, the ceiling for him and who he can translate to be, I like his size. I love, that he's going to go to the Houston Rockets. I think he can be a foundational piece for them. And I think I could talk myself into him being actually a franchise guy for you, just the way he carries himself, the confidence that he has, the ability to be a two-way player, and the size, you know what I mean? And look, Brandon Miller's 6'9", so it's not really about the size. You can never measure what's in a man's mind or what's in a man's heart. And I feel like that the Thompson twins, they have a basketball pedigree. They have a lust for basketball knowledge. They know a lot about the game. I saw they played some game with one of these social media companies, right? And they were asking Amin about, who was the number 2 pick, who was the higher or lower pick of
Uh-huh.
the players. And he got them all right. And I'm like, okay, these guys love basketball. So you don't have to force them to want to be in the gym. So yeah, I could easily talk myself into it. In fact, my big board by the end of it was, Victor obviously 1, Scoot 2, Cam Whitmore at 3. And that's a whole different story. And then I had Amin Thompson right there. So, and I like his brother as well. I think he fits with what they have with Cade and Ivy. He's going to be a nice piece for them also. And I like both of the Thompson twins. So it would be easy to talk yourself into it. The only thing you worry about is the competition, right? The caliber of competition that they had when they played overtime elite. Not to throw shade at the league, but it was not the highest quality of basketball. So I'll see how they translate. It might be a little bit of growing pains, but they're both really good and they both love the game. So that's good.
I think I want to ask you this follow-up, and we'll keep it with just these 3 guys. So
Yeah.
Victor and the Thompson twins, in a world where they go to college, where do they fit best in college basketball? And I'm sure you've talked about that regarding Victor in the past, but curious what you think.
Yeah, Victor's he's tough one to really lock down. I mean, most people when we pulled that like a few weeks ago, myself and my producer Kyle, and everyone said Gonzaga, and it feels like, that's just what when people think of foreign-born players, they think of Gonzaga. I would like to see Victor at Arizona. I just think that would be great. He would, then Arizona would have 2 top 5 picks in the last 5 years, which is, kind of funny to me because it's DeAndre Ayton, who it seems like Phoenix wants to ship out. But I would like him there. The Thompson twins, I feel like every G League player says they wanted to go to Auburn or they expected to go to Auburn. The overtime elite guys, I don't really know what their go-to school is, but for whatever reason, when I close my eyes, I see one of them at Georgia and one of them at Florida. And then they play each other in the rivalry. And there's a whole conversation about, Mike White was recruiting both of them to Florida, but then he went to Georgia and he could only get one. That's what I see in my mind. Probably not 1-to-1. They probably had a team they really liked, but I like the idea of them splitting up and going to rival schools. That would be great. Whether it's like Clemson, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. That's just Kansas State, right? I mean, that would be great, especially with Jerome Tang now. But the Thompson Twins could really play anywhere. It probably would be in the SEC. Just thinking about the athleticism, it seems like the SEC gets those guys now. But I think that's why I like the Thompsons. You kind of plug and play wherever.
I agree with you. I think there's a world where you swap, Amon Thompson and Anthony Edwards, and they do the same things that they, one's doing the NBA, one's doing at Georgia. So I like that Georgia call there. That's a good one. What I want to do about TBT 2023, but I want to see which of these host sites you would be most excited to go to for a week if you were a player.
Okay, perfect.
All right. We're going to start with weekend one. Weekend one, the options are Wichita, Lubbock, and it's Cincinnati, but it's Xavier. The games are at the Cintas Center. Which of, Coke Arena, United Supermarkets Arena, and the Cintas Center would get you the most excited or the least excited?
Well, those are all three basketball towns, I feel like Lubbock is slowly, buying, and obviously Chris Beard helped with that, the 2019 national championship run. That all helps, but Lubbock is under the radar. I feel like the dark horse there, and a lot of people probably would scoff at the idea of Lubbock. But for whatever reason, I'm like, it would be fun to play there because the crowd will be into it. I know they'll be into it at Cintas. Cincinnati's a good basketball city, but I'm actually going to go with Wichita. Kansas, that's where fans come from. They are fanatical. They are fanatics. They love basketball. They get basketball. They are a basketball state, specifically a college basketball state. Like I think North Carolina is a college basketball state. I think Kansas is a college basketball state. Indiana is more of a high school basketball state, even though obviously they have IU, you have Purdue. But as far as what people care about, so I just feel like Wichita. I've never been to Wichita. I'm intrigued by the idea of going there. You have Wichita State, you have the fan bases. Feels like people will go crazy for basketball. So of those three, I'll take Wichita. Maybe it's a bit of a zag, but I like all three cities. No disrespect. I'm just going to go with Wichita.
Fantastic. I'm actually going to Wichita this year. I'll be making my Wichita debut. Never been there either. One matchup that I got to highlight for you is there's a potential second round matchup in Wichita of the Mizzou alumni and the Kansas alumni. That's a common theme this year. I'll get to some more of those potential rivalries here, which is your favorite. But then week 2, all right, it's Syracuse, Wheeling, West Virginia, Louisville, and I'm blanking on the last one, Dayton, which we love Dayton. We go to Dayton all the time for TBT. But Syracuse, Louisville, Dayton, West Virginia, but specifically Wheeling. Where are you going if those are your 4 choices?
I've been to Minden, West Virginia, which is I had some great times in college in Minden, West Virginia. We did like a little cabin weekend experience up there. Insane place, insane state. Those people are crazy, and I say that with I'm endearing as I say that. I love them. So they're going to be insane in West Virginia. I feel like of those, I have to pick Dayton. Dayton has a place in all of our basketball hearts, and they deserve it. They love basketball. I'm a sucker for Flight, First and Flight, Wright brothers, Dayton. They love talking about being the Flyers. We have a little connective tissue there. We love Flight. I wouldn't be able to do half of the things I do without Flight. Well, I guess I could get on the train, but I don't want to do that. It's too long. So I'm going to go Dayton. I always enjoy watching basketball in Dayton. Louisville's a sleeper. Louisville's also a college basketball city. They get it. So that's going to be fun. And I went to Louisville for a live show once upon a time at Headliners Music Hall. Great place, great city, great people. They get it. You got a lot of good options here. But I'm going to go with Dayton just because, they have a special place in my heart.
You mentioned Louisville. That's a great transition into what I want to do next, which is name some of the former college stars who are now playing in TBT. So I'm going to start with this duo, Russ Smith, Peyton Siva. What comes to your mind when you think about those two and when you hear that they're going to be back playing in a Louisville court?
Well, you mentioned back, and I immediately think of Rick Pitino's back with the tattoo. That's my first image in my mind. Rick Pitino made a promise. He followed through. The NCAA came and said, absolutely not. But regardless, the tattoo lives forever. Those two guys are great basketball players, great college basketball players. I feel like a lot of times the discourse, because of NBA careers, somehow affect and impact the conversation about college players, right? Like Juan Dixon is one of the best college players of the 2000s, but people don't put him on lists because he didn't have this amazing NBA career. I think those two guys, they passed the same test there. They're college legends. They're national champions as far as I'm concerned. Hang the banner in Louisville. They should hang the banner. And that's must-see TV. And those guys have a chemistry in the backcourt, and it's hard to find that, especially now where every guard wants to be a combo guard. So they're just trying to hog the position as one. So I like those two guys together. I'm going to watch.
Yeah, I was actually with those guys last week, and Peyton was like, I don't care if I don't take a single shot. I'm just going to pass the ball to Russ. And Russ was like,
Let
I'm going
Russ
to try
cook.
to score as many as I can.
That's awesome.
I got a guy here that I think your reaction is going to be good. Thomas Robinson playing with the Kansas team. What do you think of that?
National Player of the Year, one of the greatest stories in college basketball history. Unfortunately, went up against an Anthony Davis one and done deal that is unprecedented, probably the best one and done in the actual rule era. Obviously, Carmelo Anthony happened before the rule was put into place. So Anthony Davis stopping Thomas Robinson, unfortunately, is where my mind first goes. But then I'm going to work it back. And, he was America's sweetheart. That's one of the things that I try to look for in the tournament. It felt like Marquise Noel this year and March Madness became America's sweetheart. Who is the Meg Ryan of the March Madness experience? Thomas Robinson was that guy. He's one of those guys also where his NBA career did not, it kind of hurt the conversation around how great he was in college. And Kansas needed that run. And Bill Self, when they won in 2022, he kind of, beckoned back to 10 years before, talked about that team. So that's awesome. I love to hear it. I'll watch him.
Thomas Robinson, not a fantastic NBA career, but has one of the best blocks ever when he was on the Trailblazers. If you know which one I'm talking about, you'll know what I mean. But I just want everyone to know.
All you need to, like, you know what I mean? Like when you go to the league, if you're not going to have a, 10-year career, you need highlight moments. So Thomas Robinson, you check the box. That's what you needed.
Especially as the TBT social media manager, I just need one NBA clip for it to go viral when we announce that these guys are playing. I just want everyone to know also, I didn't send Tate this list beforehand. He's freehanding all these memories of these players. So I'm going to move on to a combo one. I mentioned earlier, potentially Mizzou, Kansas. We also could potentially get Texas versus Texas Tech in Lubbock. Two guys in those games, one from Texas Tech, Matt Mooney, on the other side, on the Texas side for Austin's own, Kerwin Roach. So when you hear about that potential matchup, what do you think?
Well, when I think of Kerwin Roach, I think of Las Vegas against Kobe White, North Carolina, Texas. Kerwin Roach, it was the best display of basketball I've ever seen. In fact, I would have drafted the guy in the lottery if I was guaranteed to get him every single game. I don't know what was going on. I don't know why. He must have wanted to play at North Carolina. An all-time performance. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Kerwin Roach is amazing. Matt Mooney's a great guard. I like that matchup. I mean, that's a tough matchup. And I do feel like, and I don't, I have some Texas people in my life. I only have one Texas Tech person. I'll ask her, but I feel like without Chris Beard there, the animosity has to be a little bit down, and it has to be moving in the right direction. Obviously, your rivals, obviously you don't like each other. It's the liberal, it's the cowboy conservative. You know what I mean? There's a dichotomy between the two fan bases. We get it. But I do think without Chris Beard in the equation, we can all be closer and more aligned. And that'll be a matchup, though, because, maybe someone on Kerwin Roach's team should wear Carolina blue. It's like a bull when it sees red, and maybe he goes off. That would be my suggestion because he's unstoppable when he plays Carolina blue.
I didn't vet this list of which guys had big games against North Carolina. So
I'll tell you, I remember. Don't worry. Tyrese Rice. I remember. Malik Monk. I remember. It's Anthony Bennett. I remember. I convinced Anthony got drafted number 1 because he had like 35 points against Carolina. That's the only game that mattered. So I remember. Always know that.
So I'm going to give you a little recent one here. Okay.
Please.
A big trend this year is guys who played last year in college, like literally months ago, are playing in TBT this year. One guy, Miles Dredd for Penn State. And I know you're tuned into all basketball, more Big Ten than Pac-12, I would say. But I guess you are out west. But Miles Dredd, one of the best Penn State teams ever this year, if not the best team ever. Where's your head go when you hear that he's going to be, getting to keep shooting the ball for Penn State?
Well, he's a Detroit guy, and I know Detroit people love to hear the phrase "What up, Doe?" So if you see him say "What up, Doe?" and he's going to be like, "Damn, this guy knows. This guy knows something about Detroit." So there you go. That's something to have in your back pocket. And like you said, I mean, it's unfortunate because now when you think of Shrewsbury, you think of Notre Dame and what he's trying to do there. But what they did this year was special. Jalen Pickett was special. They had a really good team. I thought they were gonna, I mean, they could have even done more than they did this year. I mean, just based on how good of a group they had there. So Miles Dredd being there, 23 years old, I assume he's gonna be on the younger end, right, of players in this. So, bet on the young Bucks, bet on Miles Dredd. That's what I would say.
I got a story for you. So
Please.
a few years ago, and now of course, as I'm about to tell the story, I'm blanking on the name. The kid from Illinois that was there for like 4 years. I think he's Brazilian. He went to Illinois. No, not
Carbella's Puerto
Curbelo.
Rican, obviously.
I'm blanking on his name. Well, whatever. He went right from Illinois basketball to the bubble and then got like a great overseas contract because of what he did in TBT. If I remember the name, I will text it to you. But I got two more guys. The first one is the Wheat Mamba. The Wheat Mamba. I came up with that nickname. I'm going to trademark it. Connor Frankamp.
Oh my God! Wow, that is a name that I did not expect to hear. Shout out to Connor. Wow, what team is he playing for? Do they have a team?
Yeah, the Aftershocks. They're a host team. He's like the guy in TBT. Like his overseas stats, he averages maybe 10 a game.
He's like face of the franchise.
Face of the franchise. Because we got the Elam ending, and he's had like 5 crazy Elam ending game winners. He is the guy there.
Wow. I mean, Connor Frankamp, shout out to him. The Kansas days, one of the greatest hairlines and haircuts in general. I mean, he's like JP McCura level character.
Oh, that's the next one I was going to say.
Oh, please. That's my guy. That's
all right. Go into him. JP Macura.
JP Macura versus Mick Cronin, one of the greatest, back and forths we've seen in college basketball history. I think that just made the rivalry between Xavier and Cincinnati even better. JP Macura, he was in the 3x3U that myself and Mark Titus called together the first year in San Antonio. He took a DMP the second day because he drank too much the night before. One of the most legendary things ever. Just shows up to the gym full, just street clothes. There was rumblings that he was not going to play. He said it was a leg injury to us, and then off camera told us that he was a little banged up. He did not care much about the 3x3U. He cared about getting an NBA contract. So I don't blame him if you're feeling not 100%, you don't want to push it. But it was one of those moments where you're just like, JP is a legend and great storyteller, funny guy. I think he gets a bad rap for being like a villain because of, talking back and forth with Mick Cronin, but he's not a villain. He's a hero. So if you want to pull for someone, I mean, honestly, it's hard not to pull for Connor Frankamp. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, JP should be, he's number one in my heart. So JP Macura, I'll be pulling for him.
That's a great way to end that segment. I literally could do another 50 names for you. So maybe I'll just tweet at you part 2 during.
I'm not gonna lie, Connor Frankamp, that was like a blast from the past. I was like, oh my God, he's 27 now. I can't believe that.
I gotta send you the one video from that is like the greatest basketball video ever. So I'll send you after this. The last thing I want to do though, PJ Hairston was supposed to play. Their team didn't get in. Whoa. JP Tokido, he's playing on the Marshall team, which doesn't make sense, but you love it. Build your starting 5 for a North Carolina TBT team. And here are the rules. They can't be on a current NBA roster. And it can't be like Vince Carter, like a guy that is not on NBA roster, but is far retired. It's got to be an active guy that, was great at North Carolina and you would want to see again in TBT.
Can I start with, does Tyler Hansbrough count? I feel like he's enough out of, like, he's not playing professional basketball. He's a podcaster just like me.
He would be a GM. He would be probably, you can pick one GM.
All right. Well, Tyler would be my GM, and I would also wink, wink, be like, you're a player GM. You know what I mean? I would tell teams before the tournament, I'd be like, Tyler can play. He is on the roster. He is active. He could play. So don't get it twisted. We can always get him out there. The good news. All right, so they need to be like in today's shape too, right? Like, so it couldn't be like the version of them in college, right? I couldn't take like Melvin Scott, but in 2005, right? That wouldn't work. I couldn't.
That would be cheating.
That would be cheating. All right, so here
but
we go.
PJ Harrison, for example, showed up, 100 pounds overweight a few years ago and was incredible.
Yeah, because he is so gifted. I mean, PJ Harrison, high school. We played him in high school, and PJ Harrison would like pull up from half court. Like I mean, they talk about the 3-point revolution. Like the 3-point revolution from my vantage point was PJ Harrison and Reggie Bullock, and it used to be Bullock, now it's Bullock. But those two guys, they were just jacking it from everywhere, and you're like, wow, this is incredible. Wow. So all right, Kenny Williams. Let's put him on my team. I feel like Kenny is a leader, a confidant, someone I could trust. Kendall Marshall is the point guard. Kendall Marshall, he's enough out of the league right now. He's coaching basketball. I feel like Kendall can still get up and down if he needs to. We'll get him in there. John Henson, Hook Henson, he's out of basketball. He's a commentator. He's ready. He's in shape. Let's get him in the game. I like that. I like the little pick and roll with John and Kendall. John can pop out if you need him to. Just love that. So we got our point guard. We got our shooting guard. We got our 4/5. Let's think about who. Luke May is the 4. Luke May, Stretch May. So Luke May is at the 4. John's at the 5. We're thinking about our small forward. We're trying to figure out who that's going to be. I think just to get him off the Marshall team so that he's not, being a jerk and playing for another franchise. We want JP Tokoto. He's already in TBT. Maybe he gives us some, background, information on Marshall and what they got going on. So we got a little inside information. So yeah, Kendall Marshall, Kenny Williams, JP Tokoto, Luke May, John Henson, Tyler Hansbrough also can play. He's also active. So that's the 6 that I got for you. Kendall will never do it because he's like, no. John, I don't know. Maybe John is a call.
Well,
who knows?
Because this is now next year because the field is set for this year. We could get Baycott and Caleb Love on the team. Those are two guys that seem destined for TBT.
Well, Baycott, if it's next year, I hope Baycott gets a chance. But as we saw on the NBA draft, they do not respect the college bigs. Thank God Zach Edey did not stay in the draft. I mean, that would have been really bad if our National Player of the Year did not get drafted after staying in the draft. That would have been really bad. So yeah, Baycott, let's hope he gets a chance. But if not, like you said, be the GM, player GM, whatever it is. And Carolina needs a team. I don't know how it works, or maybe just like the Tobacco Road team, right? Where it's like Wake Forest, Carolina, Duke, NC State. We all come together, the Big Four, and they make a run. The Four Horsemen. I don't know what the name is, but something with the Tobacco Road guys. I sign up for that.
I like the Four Horsemen. I think that's the name right there.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. The Big
All
Four.
Right, Tate. This has been great. Before I let you go, half of this is for people to know. The other half is for me to know because I can't keep up with all of it. What is everything that you're doing right now? TV, FanDuel TV, or Ringer TV, presented by FanDuel, whatever it is right now. Let me get the rundown.
Yeah, so One Shining Podcast is the podcast, talks about basketball. We're going to be talking about the World Cup. I like FIBA basketball. I like international basketball. So I'm excited to see what Team USA looks like. Shout out to Paolo Banchero, my guy. Lost Coach K's last game for my Tar Heels, and now he's going to be an American playing for our country. I love this guy. He's my favorite Duke player ever. Shout out to Paolo Banchero. So excited about that. We'll be covering that on One Shining Podcast. That's twice a week. So that's Mondays. That's Thursdays. It's One Shining Podcast. And then the TV show is called Through the Ringer. It is once a week for an hour long on FanDuel TV. The Ringer has 4 TV shows. It is one of the 4. It is myself talking to Ringer experts about their topics of expertise. and all things in between. Producer Kyle is the producer on it, so it's the two of us. So it's on FanDuel TV on Tuesdays for an hour. It comes on at 9 Eastern in the morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. So gets you prepped and ready for all you need to know in pop culture, sports, all the above. So it's 4 shows a week in total. I know it's all very confusing and convoluted, but one shining podcast through the Ringer Podcast Network and the Ringer TV.
But
network.
you also go on other people's shows. So sometimes it's like 6 shows a week.
It's yes. I am always down to be a guest. And Kevin O'Connor, who does the NBA stuff there, I am in LA. He is in LA. He asked me because, I'm fortunate to have BJ Armstrong in my life. So, I mean, I get to hear like the agent side of things, and Kevin and all these NBA reporters, sometimes it's get a fresh ear from like a college vantage point. So yeah, I've been guesting, and I'm going to the beach in North Carolina next week. So I'm ready to turn off. So this is my last on mic appearance until next week. So that's good.
A well-deserved break. Final question. This is how we end the show on Inside TBT. Any questions for me?
Oh, wow. How many years have you been doing this for TBT? I feel like it's been 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, this is the fourth tournament of Inside TBT. So, and now I'm full-time with them, which is fantastic. But yeah, this is the 4th year of podcast. Year 1 was the bubble, which was
wow.
It was actually great because we got to do every single post-game interview on Zoom. And now when I'm in Wichita, I'm not going to be able to do a post-game interview in Lubbock, but the bubble had its advantages, and like we got to interview Joe Johnson like 4 times because they won 4 games.
Yeah, I saw Dana Carvey talking about that the other day. He was like, I kind of miss COVID. I had talked to more people. I was like, wow. I was like, what a world we live in now. But like you said, you could get all the stuff because everything was over Zoom. What a weird time. It feels like things are back to normal at some level. So hopefully this is a big year. Hopefully we get some crazy Elam endings for your sake for social media. And I'll be tuning in. I mean, honestly, as soon as you said Fran Camp, I was like, I guess I got to watch. I mean, I need to see what he's up to. Is Perry Ellis playing? Like who else? Is there anybody else out there? Okay, good.
Perry Ellis is not playing, but I got more guys on here that I didn't say. Buford is playing with the Ohio State team.
Oh, Buford.
John Harrah's playing with the Penn State team.
Nice.
Scoochie Smith with the Dayton team. Gabe York. This is a crazy one. You ready? Gabe York is playing with the Friday Beers team. So that makes no sense. That's just a random funny player on a funny.
Shout out to Friday Beers. Good for them.
Yeah.
I like the recruitment. You know what I mean?
Jacob Pullen, K-State team. So there's a lot of names. If you want any of those guys on one shining pod, you let me know. I'll hook it up.
All right, perfect. We'll be tuning in. I'll be sure to hit you up. I mean, I might need Fran Camp, honestly. I just to see what the hell he's up to. Maybe just five fast minutes with Connor Fran Camp. You know what I mean? What's your first car, Connor? That type of question. That's what I want to hear from him. But yeah, man, all good stuff. Appreciate you having me on, and I'll be supporting.
Thanks, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Clocking out early, that's the dish I don't like. Been getting paid since I was riding on the bike. Hit the pedal with the 8th, hopping on the 9th flight. I've been chilling out of sight, I'll be at the bar tonight. Told the bartender, go and take my card to swipe. You try the same thing, but your card get declined. White rappers nowadays, no, we're not too hard to find. I'm so dapper with my ways, I'm gonna linger in your mind. Always told me good things will come to those who are patient, but I've been way too patient, writing bars in my basement. I'm anxious in the real world, it's time for me to say this. The basics, the talent in my mind, I can't waste it. My life is too safe, it's my time for risk taking. I'm baking my mind, every day it's the same ish. Lazy, my grind needs to get a new facelift. Coming from the underground and busting through the pavement. Rock with it, and lean with it. My team winning, my team winning. Now rock with it, and lean with it. My team turn up when I spit it. Now rock with it, and lean with it. My team winning, my team winning. Now rock with it, and lean with it. My team turn up when I spit it. Don't think that I'm playing because I'm saving the game, and I said that I will be more because, oh yeah, that is so raving, racing and pacing around all these lames in my lane, out my way, unless you're trying to pay me. Now I not from the playpen, it's coming from the jungle. When you hear the bell, you better be ready to rumble, because I'ma grab the gloves and I'm gonna flex my muscles. Go ahead and spit some bars, but you're probably just gonna mumble. A lot of rappers these days really need to get them humble, cause they think they at the top, they better stop before they stumble. Cause I'm swiping all their biddies while they swiping right on Bumble. And your girlie calls me daddy, but she only calls you uncle. But no, we not related, homie, no, we not some fam. You never get in clubs, you can't even get in Sam's. You never get in dubs like the Browns from the land. When push comes to shove, wave that towel in your